Over the past few months, Hollywood has released 3 motion pictures, all containing one commonality. Each feature a siege on the White House. G.I. Joe Retaliation, Olympus Has Fallen, and White House Down. With the last two, studios were directly competing with each other with dueling screenplays, and neither had the good sense to back down, and realized that the public did not want the same premise over the course of a few weeks. The G.I. Joe sequel is just an unhappy coincidence. So what does this say about Hollywood? A lot, actually, but before all that, let's go through the strengths and weaknesses, mostly weaknesses, of the 3 films. First, Olympus Has Fallen. People say this film is Die Hard in the White House, but it missed the key element to Die Hard, an everyman hero. John McClane was a capable off-duty cop, but for the most part he was just a man at the wrong place, at the wrong time, stepping on glass, getting beat up, and barely making it out alive. Olympus Has Fallen features an ex-military, former head of the security detail of the President of the United States. He fights like a somehow even more perfect Jason Bourne, all quick moves and flawless timing. And because he is in the Secret Service, he knows the White House inside and out, unlike fumbling around the Nakatomi building. The everyman hero is mostly gone now, replaced by an ocean of super soldiers. Another fault in Olympus Has Fallen comes in the form of the ending. It features the worst use of the bomb countdown action trope ever seen in a motion picture. For this trick to work and feel suspenseful, there needs to be a chance that the bomb might actually go off. In Predator, it's unlikely that the hero will be killed at the end, but it's not impossible, so it made for a tense, memorable scene. The bomb countdown always plays out the same way. A bomb ticks down in big digital numbers, usually red, and then the hero defuses it with about 3 seconds to spare. Sometimes the writer will put a supporting character in harm's way, and with the stakes not so high, that makes it possible for the audience to believe that the bomb might actually go off. Sometimes it even does. In Olympus Has Fallen, if the countdown hits 0, the entire country explodes. Nobody in their right mind, even with suspension of disbelief, could believe that in this Hollywood film, that is how it would end. If we know the countdown is not hitting 0, we don't care about it. There is no suspense in this allegedly suspenseful trope. G.I. Joe deviates from domestic terrorists and North Koreans attempting and failing to take over the White House. In this film, they actually accomplish the task before the events of the movie begin, replace the president, and run amok. With that said, it is a dull little action film with few redeemable qualities. It is a film so childish and without any greater thought that one assumes the director simply watched children play with G.I. Joe figures and then hired Channing Tatum and The Rock to act it out. Worse still, for a film about characters immortalized in action figures and cartoons, the characters seem bland and ill-defined. In a children's cartoon, characters are often given one defining characteristic to differentiate them from the others. They are purposefully simple so children can understand how each character relates to the others and the greater whole. In G.I. Joe Retaliation, the film somehow goes the opposite route and makes Tatum, The Rock, and the rest seem like cardboard. Their two-dimensional cartoon sources are more well-rounded. It's a movie full of explosions, abysmal comedy, and precious little else. Action movies can be far better than this. Like the other White House films, it uses patriotism to move the audience to be interested, hoping that alone will be enough to keep us watching. Oh, the White House has been taken over by Zartan. Finally, White House Down. Released after the other two, it had little chance at the box office and bombed miserably. People were not ready for yet another siege of the White House so soon after the others. It contains a lot of similarities to Olympus Has Fallen. White House Down features the president and an ex-soldier who wants to be in the Secret Service, so he wants to prove himself. Olympus Has Fallen features the president and an ex-soldier who presently works in the Secret Service but failed to protect the First Lady and wants to prove himself. In both films, someone within the president's protective detail betrays both the commander-in-chief and the country. Both films have a little kid who needs to be rescued, nuclear bombs come into play, there are explosions, and it just feels like a lot of the same elements are in both films. Where they differ is in tone. Olympus Has Fallen attempts to be serious in a stupid movie, whereas White House Down keeps it light. It's a stupid action movie that is aware that it is stupid. It inserts a lot of comedy, and unlike G.I. Joe, it doesn't always miss. It still contains the nauseating cliches of Olympus Has Fallen, But the director clearly wanted to direct a film that mirrors his own progressive politics. It's a bad action movie that the director at least attempts to be about something, which is more than can be said of some of his contemporaries. With all of this in mind, what does the release of 3 separate films all containing a siege on the White House say about Hollywood? On the basis level, it provides further evidence that Hollywood's motion picture churning machine is without creativity. It's a redundant mess, complete with duplicate films released within a few weeks of each other, battling its way to the bottom to the point of cannibalizing itself. And to that, most would say, duh. Though more specifically, it says something about the reliance on pre-existing icons rather than building importance on one's own new icon. Rather than create an object or building or person and giving that thing or person weight through careful writing, many filmmakers are more content to make movies that feature established, real-world icons getting destroyed or invaded. We, the audience, already know what the White House is. The movies don't even go into great detail about it, because they just assume we know and that's it. Even viewers in other countries know what the White House is, at least to the comparative extent that Americans know what the Kremlin and Buckingham Palace are. Compare this with, say, The Lord of the Rings and its build-up of the importance of the One Ring. Many people who saw the films, perhaps most, never read the books, so an explanation of the One Ring was in order. Its history was detailed early in the first film and given weight over the course of the trilogy, everyone wanting it, being tempted by it. They made us care about the final fate of the ring at Mount Doom. In the 3 White House movies and similar pictures, we are already familiar with the central image, so when we see an image of it under attack, we are meant to instantly sympathize with the situation without the film even telling us of its magnitude. In short, it comes across as lazy, and any reaction to an exploding White House feels unearned. With the movies using the White House as the hook, Hollywood is free to throw cliches at us rather than delivering anything original, because the mere act of creating a movie in which one of the most famous buildings on Earth is under attack, the movie is already unoriginal, and now multiplied by 3. With so many box office bombs this summer, one would expect the American motion picture industry to change course. But the cynic in us can't help but imagine an old, stuck-in-his-ways studio hotshot calling his associates into his office, looking at the calendar, and saying, "Boys, it's almost summer, and you know what that means. It's time to blow up the White House." And the worst part is, nobody says no.